It was a cold and frosty night as Pat and I snuck over to the hospital. As we entered the lab, we could hear the gentle strumming of a guitar. Otherwise, it was deathly quiet, and so unlike the lab during the day, with all the hustle and bustle and rock music constantly blaring. I told Pat to hide in my office while I went to get Don. "Please don't tell him it's me," she whispered. "Of course I won't." Don was a little guy with a big smile, a really sweet person, who also happened to be a fabulous cook. If anyone was going to help us, I knew it would be him. He was sitting on one of the metal counters against the wall in Blood Bank, surrounded by racks of test tubes, quietly playing his guitar. He almost dropped it when I entered. "Marie, what the hell are you doing here? Are you okay?" I explained the situation, but also told him that it had to be completely on the QT, on the quiet. "Do you know how to do it?" "My friend knows. She's going to show me." "Oh, no problem then," he said as he handed me all the necessary equipment. "I'll go down the hall. Let me know when you're done." The guitar music continued as Pat showed me how to wrap the tourniquet around her arm. She then instructed me how to sterilize the area where veins were clearly visible in the crook of her arm. It was then time for me to insert the hypodermic needle. "I can't do it, Pat, I can't." "You can. Think of it as a matter of life or death." I inserted the needle at an angle, as Pat instructed, but no blood was forthcoming. I tried again and again, but I just couldn't get the blood to flow. As bruises started forming on Pat's arm, I said, "I'll go and get Don. He can do it." "No, you have to do it. Try here." And she pointed to the veins on the back of her hand. I inserted the needle as gently as I could and was delighted when blood surged into the test tube. I did it! I did it! I was so excited. I hurried down the hall to hematology and handed Don the tube of blood. "Ah, the mystery blood," he laughed. He said he'd get the results to me later. "And Marie, tell your friend not to worry." I think he secretly knew it was Pat, but I was confident he would never let on. Thankfully, the test was negative, to Pat's great relief. Phew. She promptly split up with Phil. I had a call from the guard gate that there was someone to see me. "Really?" I said. "Who is it?" Some old broad," the soldier said. "Miss Walter." I hurried to the gate where she stood holding a small box. "I was so worried about you both," she said. I assured her that Pat and I were fine. She handed me the box. "It's a cookin', a cake. I make it for you." I thanked her with the promise that we would visit her soon. She insisted that we say exactly when we were going to visit, and I told her, well, I didn't know about Pat, but I could visit her the following Saturday. She handed me a map with directions and the trams I would need to take. "You will come at 1:00. As I watched Miss Walter cross the road to the tram stop, 2 jeeps screeched up to the hospital, and the guard let them in. They parked next to the guard hut, and 2 soldiers in military police uniform got out of one of the jeeps and began speaking very earnestly to the guard. I carried on back to the lab, wondering if the soldier was in some kind of trouble. I put Miss Walter's chocolate cake in my bag, yes, it was chocolate, and made my way over to the psychiatric clinic for the group therapy session. I told Major Cardell how awful it was. They're treated like dirt. These young men are given no respect. And how can it be therapeutic? This is the army, Marie. It's boot camp therapy. Hang in there. Well, this second session was no better than the first, and the abuse hurled at the drug addicts, the heads, by members of the psychiatric clinic, the straights, seemed worse than ever. It was very difficult for me to sit through it. I almost got up a few times. I wanted to yell, scream at them. It was just so horrible. During the break, I spoke to the 4 drug addicts who were there and said how sorry I was that they were being treated so badly. A couple of them were clearly stoned. They were so out of it, and they didn't even look up. But Angelo, the young soldier I had stood up for the previous week, said, "Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it." At the end of the session, as sadistic Dr. Davenport and his associate, Dr. Rogers, with the same cruel streak, were leaving, I followed them out. "Can I have a word?" I asked them if they'd ever thought of doing some form of psychodrama with the drug addicts. They both looked at me as if I'd just farted. "You've got to be kidding me," Rogers said with a smirk. I explained there were certain exercises we'd done in drama school that I thought would help the guys open up, and it would be fun for them. "Fun?" Davenport said. "Why not? Let's have some fun." As I walked away from the psych clinic and towards the hospital, excited for what I was going to do in the group the following week, there seemed to be quite a bit of commotion everywhere, and I saw more military police around than normal. I bumped into Davis as he was leaving pediatrics. "What's going on, Davis?" "Bad Meinhof. Blew up HQ in Frankfurt. Where next?" He continued down the stairs, no doubt anxious to get to a bottle of Ripple. Sergeant Friedlander was on the phone to his wife, sounding extremely agitated as he talked about the bombing and the casualties, and Cartwright was looking very stressed. She'd put out an emergency call for blood donors to come in the following day. "It's going to be a madhouse. You better be prepared, Marble Mouth." That night, a few GIs had arranged to take me, Pat, and a couple of other girls to a British pub in Stuttgart, the Rob Roy, which was appropriately dressed in various Scottish tarns. Of course, the big topic of conversation was the Baader Meinhof gang, who I'd actually never heard of. Bernie, a blonde-haired GI from California, with hands covered in cigarette burns, filled us in. They were apparently a German leftist group of students, journalists, and intellectuals who were anti-war and anti-capitalist and wanted to kill Americans because of their involvement in the Vietnam War. They were also called Red Army Faction, RAF. Obviously, not to be confused with our Royal Air Force. "If it ain't the Gooks, it's the Krauts out to get our blood," Bernie moaned. Well, the next day, blood was definitely in demand in the lab, and dozens of donors, both military and civilian, crowded the hallway, waiting to have their blood drawn for testing prior to donating the required pint. It was a zoo. It was crazy. People everywhere. And then rock music blared from tinny speakers. And then the donors were dancing to the Rolling Stones, the Doors, Led Zeppelin, whatever was playing. It was mayhem. And into this arrived 6 drug addicts in various stages of withdrawal to offer their daily contribution of the golden flow, as they like to call it. 6 today, said Carter, the trusted ward orderly / dealer, and he handed me a list of names and serial numbers. He took the addicts further down the hall to the men's toilet, away from blood bank, while I wrote on the plastic bottles and handed them to Sergeant Friedlander. He grimaced as he went along to the men's toilet to carry out his usual act of indifference to the soundtrack of John Lennon's Imagine. With all urine samples safely logged and shipped off for testing, Cartwright ordered me to go across to blood bank and help them out. I started off logging donors' information and writing labels, while Don, another couple of lab technicians and a nurse drew blood. Just as the next soldier was ready to sit down, Don touched my arm. "You can do more." He handed me a tourniquet. "Oh no." But with donors getting antsy and technicians and nurses in short supply, I had to get stuck in. Miraculously, I managed to extract the blood samples okay, and hopefully the donors didn't leave with too many bruises. Next time, psychodrama, war stories, and positive drug tests. Thanks for listening.